Hello.
He's there. I can see him.
I can't see him. Sahana is like still joined the audio.
Yeah. She's just joined. Hi, Sahana. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hi, Sahana.
Hi.
Sahana,
Can you hear us, Sahana? And can you see the three of us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I could not see Vivek.
He couldn't see us a little while ago, so I think we'll just figure this one out.
Sahana's window is up and she's in audio.
Yeah, she's only in audio. Yeah.
Mm.
Just turn on your
And
video.
one more is in the photo pilgrim. That page is there in one more window.
Okay.
Out of
I mean,
four.
I can see Vivek and you, Chandra. I was waiting for Sahana's video feed
Ah,
to come.
okay. Vivek went to next page. Wait, I'll turn my orientation. Hold on.
Okay. Sahana, you turning on your video?
Just a
Yeah. Now I can see Vikram.
Okay.
So Vivek, I'll connect Vivek to IF. He is also using the mirrorless, right? He's using Sony.
Acha.
Hi, Sasna.
Yeah.
Hey, Chandra.
Can see all three of us?
I've lost all the three of you on video. Okay,
it?
Chandra
Oh.
is back on. I lost Vivek. I can't see Sahana.
I can see all four of you.
Same here. I can see all of you.
So
Ah, yeah,
Sasna,
there you
you're in Bangalore, right?
Yeah, in Bangalore.
I'm
Hello,
also
so
rich in
let's
Bangalore.
quick intro, Sahana. So you kind of see me now. This is Karthik here. I'm out of Hyderabad. Yeah.
Just a
So quick intro. So and then we make a start. Chandra, you go next.
Yeah.
Vivek went away. And where are you, Sayana, in Bangalore?
I am in Electronic City, Chandra. What about you?
I'm near this Bamnelli and
Okay.
Banerghatta in between.
Ah.
Not very far. We are a bit quite nearby.
Yeah.
Chandra and me were speaking a little while earlier, and I said, it's a good opportunity to meet up with Sahana because she's kind of started photography, and both you ladies can, whenever it's possible and convenient, you hook up, and I can share some of the places there. A good idea to know where the locations of any city is. Open an account, and if you zoom in on Bangalore, it will show you all the hotspots wherever you can go in Bangalore, and what are the birds, species, everything. So ebird.org is the site. Use that to track and maintain the birds you're seeing everywhere, and so that maintains your bird count. It's a database. That is should be your first go-to point if you want to go anywhere. So if I plan my holidays largely wildlife with the family, so I'm first looking up eBird, saying which place to pick, and then we'll go here.
Okay. I have an account.
So
I've
shall we
added
make a
some
start?
account also.
I have already account on keyboard here. I have check it. That is active.
Use eBird. eBird is very, very good. It's a good database and it's very, very accurate. There may be some people who may just be adding species because they want the numbers and all that. But otherwise, it's very accurate because if the data is not, there's someone who moderates it, they come back and check and tell you, there is no record of, this bird here. For example,
I think one more feature is there. At the spot, if you click on the spot, it will tell what are the birds you can see here. What are the birds?
Yeah, the mobile app is also there.
Right.
So there is a mobile app also.
I'm talking about mobile app only.
Yeah.
I had an account on eBoard earlier. I don't know whether it is working or not.
Okay. So now that all of us are here, we'll make a start. So kind of introducing the subject was, given that I started photography 10 years back, content was never close to where it is now. So the initiative was to, help anyone who's starting out photography, some of the basic lessons, and all of these are practical. I'm not going to be giving you too much of technical jargon because that confused me when I bought my SLR, when people spoke to me technically. And, physics was not my strong point. So it got very, very confusing. So that's when I started looking up content, and a lot of it that I've, now shooting now is because of, what I've photographed. And
It's lost.
almost 10 hard drives. And then once one hard drive failed, the first thing I did was get a cloud account and dump all my photos online. Right, so I'll make a start. Move on to the next slide. Right, I like a lot of quotations, so you'll be seeing some of the quotations up there. Basically saying you don't take a photograph, you make it. The entire art is about making that photograph. How you want what to be photographed, what do you want blurred, what do you want sharp, all of that. So most important thing, you have to know your camera and lens. So read that manual. I made the mistake, thinking I have the SLR, now I'll get great shots. No, it does not happen. And I used to curse myself saying, why am I, shooting badly? I go back 10 years. So read that manual, very, very important when you have to make those setting changes, otherwise you're going to struggle. Spend time reading it. Next is the modes. We'll go a deep dive, of course. So understand, the modes, because you're going to be switching, between manual and AV and shutter, whatever is your comfort. Next, have all your gear in place. Memory cards, tripod, batteries, everything. Because I've missed on shoots where I didn't carry my batteries and went, and then suddenly I lost a session because I didn't have enough juice on the camera. Lighting, very important. Are you, in a place that is like a rainforest, then light is, or, then it's, so, you have to have your shoes on, stuff like that, and always need to know, especially, largely once you start photographing, you're going to be on the move all the time. So know your surroundings. Part you are the main element in photography. The camera gear is always as good as you. If you're a genius, it doesn't matter whether you have a entry level camera or a superior level camera, because ultimately the artist is you. The 6 inches behind the camera is the most important person, and that person is you. So just ensure that you master your gear, so then you will not take bad photographs. I did that for 6 months. It was very frustrating, saying, what the hell, I'm doing everything right. No, I was not, because I didn't do the first 1 or 2 things. So just remember that the camera gear is as good as you. My best tiger shots, which I posted there on Twitter, have all been shot with the entry level 500D. So Sahana, even your camera is superior. So mine was the 500D, and after 2-3 years, I moved on to the 7D, largely for wildlife. I don't like full frames purely because I like the crop sensor 1.6 that it gives me. So that's when I went for the 7D. Right, I'll move on. Now, these are the 4 important technical aspects: aperture, shutter speed, ISO, white balance. All of these have to be harmonious, and the only person who's doing that is you. If you go on to sports mode or auto mode, you're not going to be learning much. All of that. So when I was struggling, using the creative modes, I used to switch to auto or sports and shoot. But your quality of your pictures is not great. It's okay as a JPEG image that comes out, but otherwise it's not great, right? Now we deep dive a little bit into the technical aspects. At any point, if any of you want to stop me and ask questions, please keep it conversational and ask me as much as you want. Right? We'll start with the most important part, the triangle. The triangle has everything to do with light. So it is very, very important for you to know how light affects your exposure. So between the ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, if you're using AV mode, the camera is controlling aperture and you control shutter speed and ISO. If you go to shutter mode, you're controlling shutter speed, camera is taking care of aperture, but you set up your ISO. If you're in manual, which is, when I get to manual, you are controlling all of that. So it is important how you set up your ISO. I typically kind of leave it in a range. I'll share that when we move on to the next slides. But the higher the ISO, the faster your shutter, and that gives you opportunity to play around with your f-stop value, your aperture value, depending on how you want to take that image. So these are the three key factors. So just ensure that all these aspects are well understood, because these are your fundamentals under how photography works. How much of exposure, what do you want to blur? Do you want your background being clear, or do you want a blurry background, blurry foreground, but sharp subject? So it's very important that when you're taking that shot, that photograph in the camera has to be taken well. It is going to take some practice. We will all have disappointing moments, but getting the hang around these three is very, very important. And how does this affect? We'll go in. So for example, for Chandra, it may be she's already, because she's been shooting for the last 3 years, so it will be a bit of a repeat. But Sana, that you started, and Vivek's just got his brand new camera. Important to understand this aspect. So fall in love with light, because the importance of light in photography is very important. Any questions so far?
No, carry on.
Before that, Sahana, how long you are into this photography?
Photography, I just started the bird photography recently, but I used to take pictures like earlier also.
Street and
Last
landscape.
couple of years. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so basically on travels and general stuff, right? And you were probably using a smaller lens, right, Sahana?
Yes, 250 mm one.
Okay, so basically what you got with your camera.
Mhm.
Because the dynamics change the moment you're on telephoto zoom. The dynamics change so much. Because a smaller lens, light is well in control, so you can still play around. But the moment you get on to, especially for us, our telephoto, which is 150 to 600 or a 200 to 500, then as the barrel goes out, it is going to be a little challenging how to manage that. Now dive into aperture priority, AV on Canon, A on Nikon. So I mean, Vivek, how familiar you and Sana with aperture values and how it works? Your understanding, please.
No, not very much.
Sana, what about you?
I know about these things, Karthik. What I don't know is the metering and stuff like that. These things I'm like quite
You're familiar.
aware of these. Yeah, yeah.
Fine. So for the benefit of Vivek, so the aperture is, that hole in the camera when light travels through the, your lens and goes, hits your sensor, right? So the smaller the number, the wider the aperture. So, for example, here in this figure at the bottom, if you're at 2.8, which means your camera will work optimally fast. It can shoot at its highest aperture, at the highest shutter speed. But as you increase that value, so what 2.8 does it, if you're taking someone's portrait or something, Vivek, the background gets very, very blurry. Now that's a dream, photograph for, birders like all of us. You want a blurry background, you want the the foreground, the blurry. So we want to be at our widest in aperture. So, but as that number increases, as you move from a 2.8 to a 22, 20, everything above 11, 6, 11, 16, 22 is what you typically use for landscapes. Because when you take a landscape shot, you want the tree, you want the bird, you want your foreground, you want the mountains behind. If there's a river, you want everything to be clear. So for landscape kind of photography, you need to have a high f-stop, right? So this is very important. So the lower the number, the faster your camera works, the more blurry background, which is basically called depth of field. You know that the background and the foreground are very, very blurry. Your subject is able to stand out. So this is something that's very, very important while making your images. And typically for zoom lenses, you know, like what Sahana and me have is the 150-600 Sigma, and Chandra has the 200-500. The typical sweet spot is f7.1. 7.1 to 8 are the sharpest images you will get. If you go down to our 5.6, for example, right, the camera works a little faster, but the sharpness quality is a little degraded. So 7.1 to 8 is your best aperture to shoot. It is a challenge when you know, you're shooting under low light conditions. So, for example, the photograph I posted yesterday or day before, the blue-winged laughing thrush, which I shot in North Bengal in March. You know, luckily the bird was still quiet. It was comfortable. You know, all of us, we were 5 shooters in, you know, 2 different levels. We were shooting. I was at a higher plane, so I was shooting down, which made light even more worse because I was inside a room. 3 of my other friends were out in the open. So the camera had a lot more access to light. So if they were shooting at X, I was shooting at half X because I was shooting through a, you know, a window.
Okay.
So I took that shot at under 1/100th of a second. Ideally for bird photography, you got to be shooting at 500 or 1000, right? So that is one sharp shot, but you should see the number of, you know, more, maybe 20 or 30 horrible photos I have, you know, where if it's moved like half an inch, the entire photo is blurry because light conditions were testing. So I was on continuous and I kept on shooting, like, you know, I probably have 300-400 shots of that bird. But there
What
is
was the ISO you kept?
ISO, I kept it in the range of 100 to 600, 1600. So if I was in great lighting conditions, it will go down to 100. If I'm in bad lighting conditions, 1600. Because Canon, once you go beyond 1600, noise is an issue. That is not so much the case on Nikon, where noise gets managed well.
And D500 is pretty good.
Yeah, it is without doubts. Because the D500 they brought out to compete against the 7D Mark II.
Okay.
So ideally, colors in Nikon definitely a little better than Canon, no doubts. And noise performance very good.
2000 and all is decent, I can say. Till 2000.
So the moment if I go up to 3200, there is visible noise that I can see even on the LCD, which means when I process in Photoshop, I have to do a fair amount of work to try and bring that noise down.
Okay.
Whereas Nikon is very, very smart. I think some nice use of technology there. So this is how it is. So aperture value, Vivek, to recap, the lower the number, the faster your camera works. And, you know, blurry background, foreground. The higher the f-stop, everything starts getting very clear. So this is something that you have to see, because the lower aperture number, light, because the hole is big, right? It's like a pipe where water is flowing. If the pipe size is bigger, more volume of water flows through. But if the pipe is small, you know, it is going to be the volume coming out is a lot more. So it works under the same criteria. For example, practically, if you walk into a room that's very well lit, you know, within a second, you know everything that is there. You know, there's a sofa, there's a TV, you can see the ground, you know where you're walking. But the moment the lights are off, you're going to take, you know, so many seconds for your eyes to familiarize. Is how the camera works. So it works with great light coming in, camera works best, it works fast, right? So basically your aperture value is to define your depth of field and the clarity you want in your subject. Very important. So for handheld, I don't know if you know this, Sahana, that if you're shooting handheld and yours is a crop sensor camera, right?
I am
Sahana?
not aware of that.
What's the model? What's the model? What's your
Canon 1500D.
1500D, right? So all the Canon range till the 5D Mark III are what are called crop sensors. The sensor is a little more smaller. So when you shoot in a 5D Mark III, for example, whatever you see is whatever you get, okay, in a full frame. So you and me have what is the crop sensor, and same so with
Even mine is also crop sensor.
yeah, same so with Chandra. It's a crop sensor, which means it magnifies your image by 1.6. So when you're shooting at 600 mm, suppose I was using a 5D Mark III, I will get exactly 600 mm. Whereas, someone with a crop sensor gets 960 mm. So that's why, crop sensor cameras are preferred for wildlife, because you get more zoom factor by 360, and that's a lot. That is a lot, right? So when you're shooting handheld at 600 mm, you have to multiply that into 1.6. So that's 960 mm you're actually shooting. So, the experts, and you learn this through experience, you have to be shooting at that speed, which means 1/1000 has to be your minimum. Otherwise, blur, sets in. So, which is why in handheld, if lighting conditions are great and you're shooting above 1000, brilliant. But if lighting conditions are not good, you're going to get a lot of blur. So that's when you need a tripod, a monopod, or there's a branch, there is something where you're using as a lever to rest your camera to avoid camera shake, right? Remember this. So good light conditions, never a problem. The moment you're on bad light conditions, you are going to get tested, and it's going to be very frustrating. I've gone through it, and I immediately got my tripod. So the tripod becomes mandatory at 600 mm in some of the shooting locations that you have. Remember this as a thumb rule. Handheld, 1/1000 has to be a shutter speed. Vivek, any questions so far?
No, okay. Carry on.
Yeah,
So,
Chandra.
Sahana, do you use the tripod or you have only always handheld?
Mostly handheld. I do have a tripod. Yeah, recently I started using it.
Okay.
What weight does it hold, Sahana?
I am not sure about that
Check the
specifications
specs.
exactly.
Because if this is something that you bought with your camera or something like that, right? It is very, very important, because when you're leaving your camera on it and standing or sitting down, taking a break, right?
Mm-hmm.
The leg should be able to hold it. More importantly, the head, where the body is resting, there is a lot of pressure, because the lens is about 1.5 2 kgs. Add another half kg to the camera, so that's 2.5 kgs sitting there. So one gust of wind, it will fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a typically good tripod to have is something that takes 10 kgs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those tripods are in the range of anything between 12 to 18,000 bucks. You get a damn nice one. So there's things called Sirui. Manfrotto has one at about 12, 13,000. You need one of those sturdy ones, because suppose you go to Dandeli, for instance, right? You're shooting in a height, or you go to the northeast, some of these places, or even if you're on a trek in Bangalore somewhere, you're not going to be holding it throughout that. You want to rest it at some point. So there it has to be very sturdy. The legs have to hold that additional weight, because the moment it drops down, your lens motor is gone. And in Sigma, it's about 50, 60,000 bucks. If it's out of warranty that you have to pay for, that's almost the cost of the lens. And you're not guaranteed that it will be sorted. If they give you the guarantee, great. But in some cases, if the damage is bad, the elements are broken inside. Just ensure that the tripod is able to take the weight of your body and lens. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Oops, sorry. So here are some of the images. I mean, you may have seen some of these that I posted online. All of these were shot at 7.1, f7.1 sweet spot for my lens. So which is why, the bird, the feathers, every part of it is very, very clear, and the background is extremely blur. So you take the peregrine falcon second picture on top. I was shooting at ground level, eye level. So I was actually virtually sleepy on the ground and shooting. So that's why you'll see a bit of background blur in front and blur behind, subject being clear. All the other pictures, the background is completely blurred out. So 7.1 is the best sweet spot to be at. So when this green-tailed sunbird, the second one in the bottom row. This was in, again, North Bengal. Great lighting conditions, and then 10 seconds later, cloud and fog came in, gone. Light was gone. So my camera, which was operating at 2000, suddenly dropped to 250. So I shot this image at 1/250th of a second for a bird in flight. That is not ideal. Luckily, I had, my sweet spot at 7.1, and I shot at 250, and I was on a tripod. Most importantly, I was able to get the head, the beak, the flower, and little bit of the body clear, but then you can see the blur in the wings, right? Whereas the peregrine falcon, extreme right on the bottom row, this was probably at 1/4000. So, and it's a very fast bird. When it takes off, oh my goodness, if you're shooting the peregrine falcon in flight, it is not an easy shot. It's the fastest raptor. 380 miles an hour is the speed, right? That's like a jet. So, when you want a freeze frame like that, so if I had shot it at 1/250, it would have been an entirely blurred image. Maybe the eye would have been, if I was lucky, or the head would have been visible, everything would have been blurred out. So these are examples when you want details on the bird, the feathers and all that to stand out, 7.1. Now, if I go to this, yeah.
Just one thing I want to tell Vivek here.
Yeah.
Since Vivek and Sahana are into bird photography now, it is equally important to know the subject, how the characters of the subject, how it behaves, so that you can anticipate the shots and you can wait for it and take it. So you should know what you're taking. For example, this falcon, Vivek has told like how it is, Karthik has told how it is working, the speed. Unless you are not ready for it, you will miss all the shots, because you should know what is the speed it goes. For example, a simple green bee eater, if you take, you know how it is. It's an aerial hunter. You just take the fly, come and sit back to the perch, and it will give a toss. Before eating, it will give a toss and then take it. You can wait for that moment so that you can catch the toss. So these are the things equally you should understand, the subject and the technicality of the cameras. Sorry, Karthik, to interrupt.
No problem. I think very valid point, a good input. And again, small birds, right? So sunbird, black-tailed monarch, the first photograph top left, the third one in the top left, the oriental white eyes.
White eye.
Dark-eyed, dark-fronted babbler, third one in the bottom. These are fidgety birds. They are small and they can never sit quiet. There's continuous movement. They're moving, one wing is going, the tail and this and that. So maybe one day I will show you how many photographs it took to get a clear one. There are 20-30 blurs before I've got this. So, don't think one shot and I got it clear. No, there are at least 20 images. That is bad. So, I am putting my best photographs up there on, social media. There is a lot of bad photographs, despite having all my settings, tripod, ideal conditions. These guys are difficult. Bigger birds are a lot more calmer. Sunbirds are like hummingbirds. Oh my God, they fly fast and there's, tremendous movement. So I think very valid point to kind of know, how your bird is also your subject, right? So these are landscapes. So for the benefit of Vivek here, now you see the earlier one I shot at 7.1 because I want the bird to be clear. I don't care about foreground, background. The blurrier it is, the greater the photo. Out here, my top left first is Masnagudi. It was a hazy day, but I can still make out the mountains. These are shot at f/16 largely. Then London Eye, fast moving boat, and that great lighting conditions. Again, f/16 camera could take it. The set of trees was Germany, and the first time I'd seen trees like this, and I was up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and with my camera, there were a lot of waders, birds there. So I wanted the first tree to the last tree to be absolutely clear. I didn't want blur here. That's why I was at an f/16. I took it at f9 to f11, 13, 16, 22. One of the best images that came out was, because I didn't have my tripod there, so these are handheld with my 18-135 lens. And I took this at about 18 mm or something like that, which is why you can see all through very clear. So this is your f-stop, Vivek, right? Bottom left, sunset conditions, UK. I took this shot. When I enlarge it, you'll see there's a little bird sitting on top of that tree. The bird is clear, the sky is clear, my tree is clear, purely because it's f16. The bottom two mountains, the middle one is Mount Narsing, which I shot from the space called Ravangla in Sikkim, and the other one is Kanchenjunga, right? Kanchenjunga were testing conditions. One, it was freezing to death there, -3, -4. Your hand is out, because you can't operate with a glove. And I needed that shot. Tripod. Both these places I had my tripod and I was able to take a photograph. So landscapes, higher f-stop. Thumb rule. Birds, 7.1. So in your case, Vivek, just check what's the sweet spot for the lens you're using and be at that sweet spot most of the time. So if it's suppose for you it is 3.4 or 5.6, stay at that because you will get your most clear photographs at that f-stop. So for three of us with our 500 to 600 mm zoom lenses, 7.1 or 8. Okay. So far so good.
I really need to try that out, Karthik, because I always stick to 5.6 generally, and then depend on the size of the bird, I change it to 7.6 till 8. Even 9 I have taken it.
You take it at 7.1 or 8, you will see.
I'll try now.
Feather. I mean, so some of the posters, the photographs I posted, they're all 7.1 or 8. I will use 5.6 if 7.1 when my lens is hunting, right? Not in the flight, Dandeli kind of situation, or if you go into one of those places in outskirts of Bangalore, Bannerghatta, for example, this place I mentioned, Shivanali, it is a rainforest. It's like being in the forest in Masanagudi. Lot of trees. So the lens is hunting. Your bird is not going to stop. That point, you want to take that bird. So your compromise is saying, I want my shutter to be a little faster. It will freeze action. I'll go for 5.6. Then you do it. When, light is not in your favor, be at your widest aperture on your zoom lens. Lighting conditions are decent to great, 7.1 or 8. Okay.
Because I take most the things handheld. I always take handheld only. All my things, what I posted is only handheld. And I can till 1 by 40, I can 30 also. I have stable hand.
So that is important. Which is another good point. Thanks to you brought it up. When you're taking that shot, right, at especially lower shutter speeds, hold your breath for that second when you're clicking. Because when you're breathing in and breathing out, there is a slight vibration, right? So just hold your breath when you take that shot. It helps. It helps you by
very important. Very, very important point.
Right. Go to f-stop and depth of field. So while we've covered a large part of it, this is a clear example, Vivek, on the left-hand side. When you're shooting at 2.2, look at the trees and the background there versus when you go to 22, right? This is what your f-stop does.
Karthik,
yeah.
Here at my lens, it is written f4.5 to 6.7. So this f22, what is this?
No, so when you can adjust the aperture, so when you're in AV mode, for example, you must be having a roller on your camera, right? That
exactly.
So when you're in your aperture mode, when you roll the roller, your aperture value is changing. But if you go to manual or shutter speed, and when you roll the roller, it is your shutter speed that is changing. So from 1 by 100th of a second, it will go to 1 by 500 or 1 by 1000, right? So it depends on that mode. Glad you asked it. So when you're in AV mode, your roller changes aperture value. Remember that. Okay, always remember that. The roller in AV mode will only change aperture value because you cannot control shutter. Shutter is the camera's decision. The camera's using it intelligence saying, in this situation, I'm going to operate at this speed. You don't control it. In shutter speed, you control shutter, camera controls aperture. In both these cases, only ISO, which is, we'll come to ISO, but ISO is like induces artificial light, right? It makes your sensor a lot more sensitive to whatever light is falling, right? It enhances that. So, in layman's terms, it introduces artificial light into your image. That helps you make a better capture. But the flip side, we'll talk about it when it comes there. So do this reading, Vivek. So
Okay.
AV, so this is where you have to experiment. Use AV, use shutter, use manual, right? And then till you're getting your basics, you will stick to one mode. Then at some point, you move on to manual, because manual is your most creative mode.
And your camera manual book you go through, Vivek. So you see there what it is given. Like after the session, you know what Karthik has explained you, right? So with that point, you just go through the manual, then you'll understand it very well.
Okay.
So there you will know how to set it up.
Look up, I mean, YouTube and all these places, there's damn good content. And if you need to this thing, or you know, whenever you're shooting, Vivek, don't hesitate. Give me a call and kind of tell me, you know, what's happening. Happy to help you. Don't worry about that.
Thanks.
Now
I
we'll
will
go to
definitely
ISO.
call you because every time I click now by this camera, the images are not that crisp, not that clear. Like you post your photos now, those are very crisp photos, very clear photos. You can see the fur of each fur of the bird. But when I use this camera, I don't know how you people click like that photos here.
Do
These
one
are
thing.
bits amazing.
So when you're shooting at your 230 right, have your f-stop at 6.7. You said, right? You take an image at that 4.6 or whatever is the lower number. Take it at 6.7. Take it at 8, 9, 10, whatever, and then you look at the feather detail. You will see the difference. You don't necessarily have to shoot a bird. You know, you won't shoot a flower, for example. You will see the texture of the flower. So you shoot it at 4.7, say 5.2 is there, say 6.1 is there, 6.7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You take a series of images, go and look them on your computer. It will show you which is the best photograph. And there, try and stick to that, because you have the benefit of a smaller lens, so you can push your aperture. But for the three of us, we will struggle. If I have to shoot with our cameras at 600 at f11, oh my God! Unless the sun is bright on a summer's day, no chance. Right. Now, getting back to ISO, so I mentioned what ISO is. It kind of induces artificial light. It makes your sensor more sensitive to whatever light is falling. The lower the number, the better. But that happens only when you have great lighting conditions. So see, in the rainbow on top, if it's shot at 100 and going up to 60, right? That's what ISO does. What happened? No. But look at the bottom image, portrait at 200. Look at the background behind that lady or the girl here. You see, it's very, very noisy. This is digital noise, right? It is like getting pixelated, for example. It is bad. You can take this out in post-processing in Photoshop, but it's a noisy image because it affects the skin tone. And, especially if it's birds where the feathers are clear, you will see noise. Then it is, I mean, I can't do it. I will struggle to, as an artist, to kind of remove that in Photoshop. My skills are not there. So, but when it's important to take a record shot, it's a bird you're seeing for the first time and you want that image, my recommendation to photographers is it's okay if it has high noise. Take that shot. You will get a clear picture of the photograph of the bird or the animal, whatever it is. It's okay if there is noise because you can minimize something in post-processing. What's wrong with my system? But don't shoot at low ISO and get a blurry photograph. Get a grainy photograph at high ISO. Still okay because you can still do something about it. But if there is shake in that photograph, you can't do anything about it. Right? Remember that. So this is what ISO, the trade-off is you will get more grains, but your camera will operate fast and you'll freeze. So for example, I was in Sikkim in 2018. We were shooting at this place called Zuluk in Sikkim. This is where it borders with Tibet and Bhutan. That's where India and China had a problem. Doklam. You probably heard it in the news, right? So we were shooting at about 15,000 feet above sea level, right? Temperatures in summer, rest of the summer was burning the country. We were shooting at -5. Hottest part of the day was -5, right? Terrible. It is very difficult. When your hand is freezing, every time, it's in the glove, you take it out, take a shot, put it back in and all that. And weather changes are intense. Sunny, next it's foggy, then it's cloudy. This is continuously happening. So light, we were not at control. So we were trying to shoot some of those birds. I haven't posted those because I wanted a record shot. I took the shot at 3200. It was noisy, but I took the shot at 3200 saying it's okay. At least I have the record, I have got this bird. So, if I'm posting it on eBird and they say evidence, for example, blood pheasant, if they say, what is the evidence you saw this bird at that point, I'll be able to take that grainy image and put it. But it's for my record saying, ye photograph hai mere paas. I have got that bird. But it is not worthy to put, in social media or wherever, because it's a very grainy image. So that is my trade-off. Noise, okay, but I want that shot. I'll get that shot with noise. I'm compromising on that, but I don't want a blurry photograph. There's no point taking a blurry photograph. Take a clear photograph, noisy, fine. Right? So this is important. Sana, anything from you on this point on ISO?
No.
No,
What I've
very
observed
quiet.
is, yeah.
Sorry, Sana?
What I've observed is usually, I end up going till 1600, and there are, as you said, there are grains. Then in the post-processing Lightroom, I try to reduce that.
See, in Lightroom, what happens, which is why Photoshop is important. In Lightroom, you cannot isolate your subject. Say there's the bird, there is the tree, there is the background, there is the leaf and flowers, typically. You can't isolate it. Photoshop gives you the option. So Lightroom is good to an extent, but Photoshop is where you want to get to. That takes out that noise, right? I think I worked on one or two of your photographs, right? There was a little difference.
Yes.
So that's what Photoshop does, right? Especially if it is raw, you can really make an impact. Noise and some of the stuff and all that. But Lightroom doesn't give you that. It's good for processing as long as it's a damn good shot. But the moment it needs more work, Photoshop is the answer. Right? Because when you play with your noise reduction in Lightroom, you bump up the sharpness and then you bump up the, noise removal. It automatically starts affecting the main subject also. So which is why, when you get to learn Photoshop, you will see the difference. And then you will never go back to Lightroom. I do not. I
used to Lightroom it.
I used to use when I didn't know Photoshop. So I took the Creative Cloud account. For 3 years, I had Photoshop with me, and then I learned slowly. And then I don't use Lightroom. Photoshop is the best option. Okay. So this covers ISO, Vivek, for your benefit. Right. We will then now go to metering. Now, Sana had questions on metering, right? So evaluative in Canon, Matrix in Nikon, right? So what metering does this? See, in the old film SLR days, they used to have a light meter. Check the light conditions outside. This is where Sudhir Shivaram is like God, because he understands it like none of us ever will. So they would check with a light meter and then make the adjustments and take that shot. Now, in our birding, there is no option. By the time you spend 30 seconds, the bird's gone. So you are left with that little window to take that shot, right? So we are very lucky we are shooting, with digital. Film SLR, you don't know till you develop that photograph saying, acha aaya nahi aaya. You don't know. You take 30 shots and then you realize 15 are bad, 15 are okay. Good. In SLR, if this photo is not okay, I'll delete. Very easy to do it. But old days, those guys had no choice. They had to develop the film, print it, and then say, nah, I don't like this photo, right? So the light meter is built into our cameras. However, low end or high end, the light meter is built in. So evaluative should be your stock mode. I don't know what it's called in yours, Vivek. We'll look it up. Alexei, you and me will have a chat. We'll figure out what is evaluative in your camera you're using. But for Sahana and me, it's evaluative. So what evaluative does is all the light that's hitting the sensor, it distributes it in the frame and gives you what is the best lighting exposure, right? So 70%, 80%. So when your subject is sitting in that center where the black thing is, that entire section is perfectly well lit. So evaluative mode is the best mode to use for photography, and for Nikon it is matrix metering. That is your best, right? Center weighted, no one really uses it, largely because when evaluative does a better job, why use center, because it just averages, in a thing and says this is what it is. So you end up getting dark or overexposed. Evaluative, 9 out of 10 times you will get it spot on, right? Coming to the spot meter, like it says, it only covers like 1.5% of that entire frame you're capturing. So this is a mode we use when it is backlit. When I say backlit, when you have the light source, say the sun or whatever, be it artificial, natural light, is behind the subject. So typically photography, what we do, we want the sun behind us. We want the sun falling on the bird or whatever is our subject to light it up. But the moment the sun is behind the subject, you're shooting into the sun. So what happens is you end up getting a silhouette. The subject goes dark. So then what you want to do is use spot metering. But this is not great for landscape kind of scenario. For landscape, you are in control because you can still move. But in bird photography, you don't have that option. You have to take the best spot and then shoot. So use this and focus on the face, because a clear photograph of a bird with the eye not being clear is of no use. It is of no use having the feathers and all there, but the eye is not clear. If the body is blur and the head, and automatically with the eye the head becomes clear, right? That's a better photograph any day. That's what most of us will dream of. So spot metering to be used in really bad light conditions, especially when the light source is behind the subject, you want to be using spot metering. Does that help, Sahana?
Mm-hmm. Karthik, in my camera, I don't have this option of there is something else. I don't remember the word exactly.
There'll be 4 options, right? So because
center weighted and it's something else. Sure.
We'll look it up. So when you checking your camera next time, Radha, when you're looking at the metering modes, let's just. I'm surprised. I haven't seen the 500, 1500D, but including my 500D had this, and there was another one. There were 4 options. So thumb rule, stick to evaluative. Best in all situations, except when it's backlit. Especially in Dandeli. If you go, you've been to Dandeli, any of you? No. So Dandeli, you're shooting in a studio. So you have the resort and all that here behind you. They have a green curtain put where just that much of gap, a foot's gap is there for you to put your camera lens and observe the birds. Now during sunset, the sun has moved and is right behind the subject, and there's sunlight falling into your lens. There you have to go on to spot, otherwise you end up getting silhouettes. Yeah.
In my camera, there is no evaluative option. I think it's 3 options are there: multi, spot, and average.
So then in your case, it must be multi. I will look this up for you separately, Vivek, and send you a note. So if there is center weighted, no. If there is spot, I told you which scenario you use. Light source.
Center weighted is also not there. It is only 3. These are only 3: multi, spot, and average. I think you are talking center weighted is average here, and this evaluative is multi here, because the symbol like
So
that
let's look that up. Right? But so for your bird photography, always same for Nikoners, matrix metering, for Canon, evaluative. In your case, we'll find out what is it, Vivek. Let us be sure. Yes, Anna, you had something? Okay. Move on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Clear, Vivek? Any questions? Don't hesitate.
No, clear.
Right? White balance. Now, white balance largely, especially when you're post-processing in Photoshop, I will use automatic white balance, right? Unless I want to get a little creative or something like that, because in Photoshop I can control my light conditions, my colors, everything. So I will manage this in post, because I'm shooting in RAW, so I don't care. I can go and change my blues, greens, yellows, reds inside Photoshop. So I will shoot in automatic white balance. But if you want to still be a little creative, use the sun wala image for daylight shooting. Use the cloudy image for when the sun is hidden behind the clouds. When in shade, use the shade mode. Creative mode is, if you want to be really creative with your white balance, go into Kelvin. Now, the higher the Kelvin value, the more yellow and orange your pictures get. It gets warmer, right? But if you you want it to be a lot more whiter to blue, you pull that number down. Take a few shots and see. When you shooting outside landscape, you shoot it at 2500, you'll get a bluish tinge, right? So that I've never gone lower side. I've always gone higher where I want more warmer, more yellow kind of tones. I pushed Kelvin up to, because when you use automatic white balance, it assesses the entire situation and gives you under, what is it going to use. But in daylight, it sticks at say 50 to 100. In cloudy, it goes to maybe 6500 or something like that. Look, the value is given when you're using those modes. So experiment a bit to see Kelvin. So there are some shots, for example, I want a more yellowy effect on, say, the subject. If it's a tiger or a bird, then I'll go to Kelvin. Otherwise, I can manage all of that in automatic white balance. What do you use, Sahana?
It's mostly daylight.
So, because see, you're using Lightroom, you can still control in Lightroom. When you open it in Lightroom, right, you have the options of when you go to colors, the colors area, saturation, hue, saturation. There are 3 areas there. And you can play with your blue, red, orange, greens, and all that. So you can still manage this in Lightroom.
But I feel it's better always to use this auto. And then in any case you want a dramatic effect or something, you can always come back and do it in your post-processing.
So what you can do,
it will be safer, right?
Shoot with automatic, daylight, and cloudy, and you see the difference. See, end of the day, you are the artist. It has got to appeal to you. Very important, because you are the one creating that image. You have already formulated that image in your mind, saying, I want this blur, I want this blur, I want this clear, I want just the branch and the bird clear, right? So you have that image. While you're consciously not thinking of it, it is there at the back of your mind saying, this is how I want my image to be. So you're conceptualizing, right? Do this and see, and then figure out what's my sweet spot that I like, right? So this is for reference. Experiment, and then you figure out. Okay?
Yeah.
Manual mode. This is, for some reason, I had the affinity of using this from day one, even though I never understood it. Probably because I could control shutter a little better and I wasn't able to understand aperture. Today, I'm in manual mode. So when I'm shooting in best of conditions or worst of conditions, best of conditions, I may tend to, when I'm in like Usman Sagar, where I'm shooting the Falcons and the Kestrels, I'll go to AV mode because my camera is operating at 1/4000th to 1/8000th of a second. So I'm happy to be in AV. I will go hit my 7.1 or 8 and I'm shooting because light is not an issue. The moment you want to control
when you
light,
sorry to interrupt. When you say
no problem.
By 4000 of a second, then what is your ISO? I mean, as in when you increase these things, the ISO also should be upright.
Yeah. So no, not necessarily. So suppose you're on a bright day, Dana. On a bright day when the conditions are absolutely ideal for you to shoot, you set your ISO range between 100 to 400 or 100 to 800 tops, right? Just in case, there's a cloud that suddenly covers at the time of you taking that shot, right? You want a little bit of artificial assistance coming your way. So in bright conditions, at the max, set it to 100 to 800 when you're taking your shots. When you take the shot, look at the histogram, or when you pull up the image to see what you shot, it gives you at what ISO. And even when you're looking through your viewer, right, you are seeing the ISO is changing. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, not exactly.
No, right? So what do? You just fit a 600 lens and you turn left and right, and inside you will see that the ISO is moving from 100 to 200 to 400 and back to 100, right? So in great lighting conditions, you can allow a max. So keep ISO in auto mode and keep a max of no more than 800. Right? Right. So remember that. The moment you're say you're shooting with me in Northeast, Dandeli, jungles of Kerala and places like that where light is very variable as a factor, you will set it to 1600 because what you want is a good clean shot, and 1600 up to that in ISO you can still manage noise very well. 3200 and beyond is a challenge. So it's definitely a challenge for your 1500D. It becomes a big challenge for me in my 7D Mark II. If I go to 6400, I am ruining it. So I've never shot at 6400 except I think in Kerala I was shooting an owl and I had no choice. Mottled wood owl, I wanted that shot at 6 o'clock in the evening. Horrible light, so I pushed my ISO to 6400 just to get that record photograph.
Where in Eldos?
Eldos.
Eldos. Okay.
Yeah. So,
come to my farmhouse. I'll show you in daytime also. It's just behind my house.
And so
really?
This is mottled. So I was shooting in the air, so it was not even like I'm shooting at eye level. So I've got my camera and lens at a 60-degree angle. Sun is filtering through that, setting sun is filtering through that. Subject is not clear.
Yeah.
Not an eye level shot like that, but an angle like that. I say, what? Change the ISO. I want the picture. I may not post it, that's fine, but I want a clear image to see at least. So that's when you do it. So in manual, you're controlling ISO, you're controlling aperture, and you're controlling shutter speed.
Okay, I've never set up the auto mode. I mean, ISO auto, that range I have never kept. I always fix to that, and in manual I keep adjusting. And I shoot in manual.
No, so what really helps, because sometimes in bird photography you may tend to lose the moment, Chandra.
I have lost it many.
So look at, go into the settings for ISO, set it in auto, but set the range. 1 to 400, 1 to 800, whatever is the tolerance you want to keep higher to lower limits, set it in that. It just gives you complete control because you can't change from 400 to 800 or 100 on the fly because it's too many. You have to get off, go to viewfinder, move and all that, right? So that way on the Canon screen, it is a lot more faster you can do. Nikon, you have to actually go into the menu settings, right? Which is why you want to set this. Definitely Nikon, you want to set it up. For San and me, the moment we get it off and we see it, we can see the entire screen. And I can individually go and do it. But in Nikon, I have to go into the menu. So it is a little easier on the Canon side. But ideally, you want it all, managed well within the camera. Saying I want the camera to work according to what I'm doing. So set that ISO range and leave it. It'll be very useful. We'll take a look at it on your camera, Sana. And I'll let you know, navigate and tell you under which option you can do this. You've never done this?
This I've set it, Karthik. Actually, I've set it till 1600.
Oh, brilliant. Then you're completely in control. But this is something for you to look at, Chandra. Especially if you're shooting.
I tried that once, and then actually I didn't work. I don't know why I changed back to my manual, and through I set that focusing buttons, right? I used to adjust with that immediately.
Right.
But not all times. I have lost many.
Yeah. So that's why you want to be, in control and let your camera do some work for you.
Okay.
In ideal conditions, you can do that. In conditions where your subject is a little tricky, you want to have that little advantage. So let the camera do a little bit of work. Right?
And this helps where the place is half shade, half light, well lit, sunny, all this little managed, right?
See, what you're saying, and what Sana also indicated is if you're shooting in a clean area, no trees, nothing, then that works. Set it to 400, set it to 100 and shoot. Not a problem. But the moment it is a little variable and it is going to change, got to be careful.
Okay.
The moment shadows are playing their part, you want to be careful. Shutter mode, very simple. Like how aperture takes care of your aperture, shutter takes care of shutter. Camera looks at setting the aperture value. ISO is in your control. I have very rarely used this because I would rather prefer to be in manual or go to aperture priority, not so much shutter. Shutter I may use if I'm shooting, waterfalls, for example, right? I want a silky flow to that water. Then what I do, I shoot it I keep my ISO lowest and on a tripod, I shoot it at half a second to 1 second. So what happens is, the way have you seen some of the waterfall photographs? Completely smooth.
Yeah, smoky effect.
Yeah, that effect. Those are shot with exposure of anything between 1 to 10 seconds. You can't do that handheld. So,
Right.
but you're saying for 10 seconds, if I keep my shutter open, that image should burn. So what guys do is you get filters, right? And it's called ND filter, neutral density filters. It is slightly dark to extremely dark. So the extremely dark one, reduces your f-stop value by like 10, 20 times. So all those photographs are used with the darkest ND filter. It is set for 10 seconds, and that entire water flow is completely beautifully blurred out with that smoky effect.
Okay.
So it is good to get keep it there, but tripod becomes mandatory. So that's when you will. I largely use shutter, but there's a very good friend of mine. He prefers shutter. He shoots tigers, birds, and all that with it. Saying let the camera decide the aperture. I'm more bothered about the picture that I get. My post processing I will manipulate my image. So that's that guy's preference.
Actually, I used aperture mode for some time in between. I started with manual, and in between, and few of my photographer friends, they always insist like how in the bird, and you cannot predict their movement, so better go with aperture. At few cases, it is very good, but in many cases, I was not okay, so I came back to manual. I am very happy with my manual mode. I can control.
So I think
that's how we want it.
Yeah. So that's how Sahana's also said. So I'm really glad for an early shooter. She's got used to kind of manual. And trust me, Sahana, that's the best mode to be in, because you will be loving your photographs when you're working on it post. Yeah, absolutely going to love it. Trust me.
But even even Sudhir used to tell to keep in aperture mode. I used to watch his tutorials. He's my e-mentor, I can say. My photography skills have improved a lot, but he advises to keep in aperture mode for wildlife photography, particularly bird photography. He tells me to keep in advises in aperture mode. I try.
So, what are the lenses he's using? Sahana, do you follow Sudhir Shivaram?
Sometimes I watch his video.
Yeah. So now when you're shooting with a 400 2.8 or a 600 f4, that guy will never have problems with light. But the moment you're on a telephoto zoom that is operating 150 to 600 mm or whatever, you are going to suffer. So prime lenses, that is the advantage, right? I've got a friend who's got a both a Nikon and another guy who's got a Canon 400 2.8. In pitch darkness, they take such outstanding photographs, right? But then that's what you pay for. 13.5 lakhs for a 400 2.8 or a 600 f4 with IS2, IS3 and all that, right? So, when you got money to throw, you can pick that f4 or 2.8. So Sudhir largely comes from that perspective because, see, he's a brilliant guy, and he was sponsored by Canon and all that. And I've seen him in Tadoba once, so he's got his, how he travels. There's all top-end bodies, okay? 1DX Mark II and 5D Mark III and all that. So he's got one with a 800 5.6. He's got the next body with 600 f4. He's got the third one with 400 2.8, and then he's got a 70-200 at 2.8. So the guy he has an arsenal like that, right? So someone
like when he is at the airport, the person will come and deliver. He'll go, come back, give it and go. No, even for the tele's photo also, he was suggesting that. And one of my another photographer, like he's a very good photographer in bird photography, he's using Canon. Even he also suggested why you go for an aperture mode. But where I found the problem is when there are shade and light conditions.
Yeah, you're right.
And sometimes in the dark, the shutter goes very mad. So we will not get the picture what we expect.
Exactly. So I play safe. I'm going to play safe, saying I want that shot. I would rather control everything, and that's when I go to manual. You're shooting in manual, right, Sahana?
Yes, yes.
So stick to that. Trust me.
Yes.
In the next few weeks, once you've kind of mastered the art of managing everything, you will absolutely love your photographs. Very rarely you will go into a AV mode. Otherwise, largely you're going to stick to manual because it's so damn creative. Right?
Sahana, we both will go somewhere here. You're in Bangalore, right?
Yeah, yes.
We'll do a field learning. We will do, right?
So
Yeah.
I'll recommend good lighting conditions. Go to Hesarghatta Lake. Where do you stay,
Okay.
Sahana, in Bangalore?
I stay in Electronic City, Karthik.
Wow.
Where exactly? Electronicity is like inside or?
Phase 1, phase 1.
Okay.
Wow. Hesarghatta is on the opposite side of town.
That's okay. We'll
Right.
manage.
So it's a fair, but so since you're there, then you're getting to Banarghatta, Anekal, which is Shivanahalli. I will say you go there because you have both. You got shaded areas, you got open areas, you got your raptors. You know,
Karthik, is it safe there?
yeah, there's no problem. There's no problem. You will always find some shooter there. There'll be 2, 3 guys and all that, and it's a part of the ashram. So there's no problem. There's absolutely no problem. Right? I mean, if the elephants and all going, these guys will tell you, and they'll stop you from going. But otherwise, you can. There's no problem. There's no big cats or anything like that. Nothing like that is there. So Shivanali is beautiful. So you got the open area. We will get your raptors. You'll get your munias, which is your, red avidavat, scaly-breasted munia. All those are there. Then you have your raptors. Then you could be lucky with the Egyptian vulture that side, and rock thrushes, lot of other stuff. Brilliant. You'll get high level shots of your coppersmith barbets at close range, because that place is a field. Basically, it's built on levels. So this level you're shooting there, you just go up a little and then you're at high level. So it's a brilliant place to go, and it's safe. Absolutely safe. You just carry your sandwiches or something for your breakfast. You can get there for about 6:30, shoot, and then get back. It's absolutely safe. Yeah.
Because
Right.
Sahana, I don't have a company here, so I'm just keeping quiet.
Here.
So where
Okay,
have
so
you
we
been,
both will
Sahana, in
join.
Bangalore? Where have you gone typically to shoot in Bangalore?
Who,
I've
me or
gone
Sahana?
to
Sahana.
I have gone to Hoskote a couple of times. That's also a nice place.
Hoskote Lake is nice.
Yes. And then
Even
somewhere near Kanakpura Road. Yeah.
Kanakpura Road is nice. That Valley School is brilliant.
Yeah, that's closed now.
Wonderful birds.
Yeah.
I know. Timing is bad. Your Hebal Lake, the garden and all that is good. Jacanas and a lot of other stuff is there, and pretty good light and all that. So that is good. I used to go to so many places there. My God, always discovering, going around, and all of that. Right. So, okay. So now getting into how to frame and all of that. So very, very important. And especially people are using manual, it is so important because you got to fill your frame. You're trying to make one complete story with what you're shooting. So ensure your subject is clear. Create and play with your background, foreground, all of that. I think I'll just share on email to you guys. The Falcon I shot, I deliberately, people thought I had photoshopped it heavily. I hadn't even touched that photograph on Photoshop. My entire foreground was blur like hell. My entire background, and this bird was standing out. Sometimes when people blur it, deliberately in Photoshop, it makes it very artificial where the bird is standing. So I had one of my friends saying, "You think this is fake? You have overdone your." I said, "I haven't even touched blur. I've only taken noise out." He says, "I refuse to believe you." And I sent him that photograph. I said, "Yeah, dekh lo." He's saying, "I cannot believe a raw image like that." That is because I kept my camera right to the bottom. So until the bird's feet was blur. Then the bird is clear and everything behind it is gone. So, that's what you can do with manual. So work to get your depth of field absolutely right. Fill your frame, right? Try and, rule of thirds. If you following rule of thirds, try and frame it. You can do it with bigger subjects. If it's a small bird, center it and shoot. But if it's a bigger raptor and you're in a close range, try and get your rule of thirds, as a part of your shoot itself. It's always better. then you don't have to go and crop. And then not necessarily when you're cropping in post process, you may not get the eye at the intersection where you want. So sometimes it's going to be haywire. So bigger birds, try and shoot with the rule of thirds, if it's tigers and stuff like that. Use your thirds because it's a big subject. Get it right there. Small bird, center it, and then you play with it in your post. I don't know if you used monochrome anytime? Monochrome, anyone?
No.
It's brilliant. There are some photographs in monochrome when it's completely black and white, and this especially a subject if it's old people.
I used to change it in the Photoshop.
Yeah. So, for example, I also do that. But I think there will be a difference when you capture it monochrome and you play with it. Especially, when you look at, the Oriental people, you go to the northeast side and you shoot, because the way they have wrinkles, the eye and all that, it stands out. Your color photograph does not justify and show you the beauty of, what you've captured. You change that to monochrome, it is unbelievable. Every single line, and it is extremely powerful. So any old people or anything, or general scenarios also, black and white is brilliant, right? Thumb rule: try and shoot at eye level wherever possible, because that's when you get, it's a big story when you process that image and it's ready. It's beautiful because you're in complete control. You blurred out what you want to as much as you can do it post, but try and shoot at eye level wherever possible. Lines and patterns. I've got an image for lines and patterns where you can use that. How do you use leading lines? How do you use patterns? There's a lot more stuff on the net that you can pick, because that's where compositions really matter. Golden hour, best. So your morning 6 to 6:37, brilliant time to shoot. So light is soft. After that, it gets harsh. Your shadows. Then it's a lot of work you have to do in post. But just after sunrise, just before sundown, best times to shoot. This is now talking about the rule of thirds. Framing internally will be great if you can do it with bigger subjects, and then using leading lines. How you want to use it. So shoot creatively. This is going to I have the staircases. I'm waiting to do it. Probably if I travel abroad or go into one of those places and shoot like that. It is absolutely brilliant. There's some great images that even on our Twitter handles, guys are posting some fabulous images of all of these, and they use patterns and things like that. So
Okay.
it's very nice.
I have not tried this area at all. I need to do that.
It is nice. It is nice. So especially when you do street.
So far, I'm sorry, I'm just keeping on interrupting it.
No.
I always stick to wildlife. I never even take a snap of my family even. Only wildlife. I'm not all interested, first thing. And always it is that. Other than that, I've never clicked. Maybe sometimes the landscape when I went to corporate or something is very catchy.
No, but try and do it. You'll end up feeling very proud with some of these creations you have. Just follow some of those handles. There's some good handles that do a lot of this stuff. I mean, of course, in US and Europe, we don't have autumn like they have. You look at those autumn colors. I'm feeling so jealous. Wow, I wish I can travel and take a photograph like that. So try and street is good. Street, you will come up with really good options of using, if it's a be it even pedestrian crossings and stuff like that. Very interesting. It's nice. It's just nice. Refresher. Right. My recommendation, since all of us are wildlifers, shoot in high speed, continuous always. Don't bother of how many shots you got. As many great shots you get, better. But you can use your single shot when you're doing portraits in a studio kind of setup. If it's people or even if it is landscape and all that, do that. But otherwise, my stock mode, I've never changed it. It's always high speed continuous, always, where my camera operates fastest. Right. So quick recap. This quote I put is so relevant. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So especially for wildlife, birders like us, getting those settings right in camera when you take that shot is so key. Just ensure, I've made mistakes. When this weekend I was out with my friend, we went to shoot that. he thought he had those settings right, stock settings of his. It wasn't. And then, we got the moment, and then he lost it because, it got overexposed, and moment gone. Moment just gone. So, the baya, we were eating one grain of bajra. It was sitting, beautiful yellow background, and green was such a fabulous contrast. And we were shooting at hardly 2-3 meters. He lost it completely. So just ensure that the settings and everything at any point in time are in place. Right? So this is by and large, I don't want to repeat this, but big recommendation to both you ladies is get that tripod. Get that tripod, most important, and you will not stop thanking me once you've started using a tripod. There are two tripods. There is a Vanguard and there's a Sirui. They're in about 15 odd thousand range.
How about Manfrotto?
Manfrotto is good, but the visual look of it, the legs are very thin, so it's a little scary for me. But they say it takes 12 kgs and all that. Yesterday I saw
I've used it in one of the hide photography when I went to the Tekard.
So these two ones, there's the Vanguard and the Sirui, where you can convert it to a monopod, so one leg can be taken out.
Okay.
So get something, so you don't end up buying a monopod and a tripod. So try and pick something that gives you the options of flexibility of both.
Okay. Please send me that model if you can.
I'll WhatsApp it to you guys. Yeah. And as and when you can. But if you're ever going Dandeli, Kerala, you're going to Ooty, Ooty is a beautiful. I don't know if you've, Chandrika, you've been to Sims Park in Kunur and
yeah. That's where I went before. This March first week I was there. So before lockdown.
Especially if you're in botanical gardens, beautiful birds, light is a challenge. You have to have your tripod. Handheld is next to impossible. And you're seeing birds at close range, canary, flycatcher, Indian blackbird, and a lot of those beautiful birds at very, very close range. But handheld is not going to help. I struggled. I have my 150-600 and I have a 7D with a 100-400. I carry both with me. So I said, Chalo, let's try my 100-400 and see. I was struggling even with a slightly smaller, lighter, good lens. I was still struggling. So tripod, always, always.
Okay.
Right? While we spoke of rules, you can break all those rules. But when you got to break all those rules, what you got to do is you got to know your subject well. So it's like the saying, learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. Don't stick to tried and tested. There are times when you use it. There are times when you should just go ahead and, your perspective matters. End of the day, you are the artist behind that camera. It'll do what it tells you. You figure out what you can do. My camera is always with me. In that car, it is sitting next to me always. And especially when I was in Bangalore, I had my tent, I had my camera, and I had my clothes bag ready. Because my office space used to be at Maneta Tech Park, Hebal. And if I just decided saying, I'll work from home Friday, Thursday I just buzz off. I just take off on my own. If a friend was join me. I'll go off to straight drive into before traffic kills me. 3 o'clock, wind up, leave Maneta. Head on to Chikmagalur or Ooty or Masinagudi, Bandipur, Coorg, Wayanad, just leave. Right? So that's how I am. Both of you are avid shooters. You like your travel. I mean, Hannah's told me she loves her travel and all of that.
I love to travel.
For me, it's been frustrating. 8 months I've been stuck here. I had to cut short my Northeast trip by 3 weeks. I went there on 14th. 19th, they kicked out everyone from the hills. We knew the Sarpanch to my friend who has a resort there. We got a 24, 48-hour notice. We said, boss, we both do I'm not going back. Let me shoot. There are some bits I need to. So he managed to. But the place was a ghost town. Everyone had left. There were no lights on the street. It was like scary. It was like seeing a zombie movie. So we went, finished our shoot, and then we got thrown out saying, now you get out of this place. So I had 3 more weeks. And I was heartbroken, saying, damn it, best season. Birds are in triple plumage. They are looking absolutely outstanding. I would have probably got better shots of some of the Leothrics and this and that in great light. And those were shot under testing conditions. But, post-process helped me a bit. I was heartbroken. I'm waiting to go back. But then it's really unsafe right now, so I'm just sitting quiet. But, keeping a guy like me sitting at home for 8 months is next to impossible. Being on weekends in the house is impossible for me. So 8 months has been a very, very tough time. Right?
Yeah. Right. Just want to know what Sahara is doing in her other time.
You want to answer that, Sahana?
No, we will take it later. You finish your thing. Sahana, I'll connect you in WhatsApp and we'll talk.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll share your numbers with each other. So you always can be in touch, right? So this is just to say, I think that quote at the bottom is important. Don't shoot what it looks like, shoot what it feels like. You got to feel that internal sensation, the conceptualization in your mind. So shoot at ground level. All these guys, I've got friends. Flamingos, they wanted a close shot. This guy's Sriram, he has a 600 f4 and a full frame D750. He went down in the slush up to his neck, and he's carrying like 10 lakhs on his his hand, and he's walking. I just put my head down saying, "Are you crazy?" Right? Complete dirt right up to his neck. He lost his shoes there. He had to leave off his shoes, everything. Took the shots of those flamingos, came back with fabulous pictures. Right? But I probably wouldn't get into so much trouble.
I will not.
I go close, right? But I am not walking into, dirt. There's snakes around. I wouldn't do that. But there are guys who are passionate. Look at this guy, shooting a volcano, lava flowing, his gear, his shoes, everything is on fire. But that's what photographers are, passionate. You want that shot, you got to take it, no matter.
In a plain ground, I can lie and do all that.
Yeah, I do that.
I am a bit worried.
I hate getting into my car like that. It makes a mess. I can't deal with that. Because, my car is the most important thing, because I have driven in the last 15 years 7.5 lakh kilometers. 7.7 lakh kilometers. That's how much I drive. If there is a road, I will go. My family can manage sitting with me patiently, that's okay. Like I did Dandeli, Bangalore, Hyderabad, 1,500 kilometers in 18 hours. I drove in from Dandeli to my sister's place, showered, had dinner, took off at 9 o'clock at night, drove into Hyderabad. So that's how much I drive. So when I tell people, they say, you should be a lorry driver or a truck driver or a car driver, taxi driver. He's saying, which human drives 7.5 lakh kilometers? But that's how much I've driven. So I was supposed to go to North Bengal in my car. My friend said, don't be crazy. The roads are bad. Your car will break into parts. You'll need 4 new tires. And then my other friend who was joining with me said, boss, I am not driving for 3 days. I can't deal with this. So he said, okay, we'll fly. But if there's a road, I will drive. I will just go as far as I can go. That's me. Right? So let's talk the good, the bad, and the ugly. I love cowboy movies. That's why I put these 3 guys there.
That's my favorite one.
Right? So the good parts is, great memories. You spend time in nature. You love your photography and all of that, and as a photographer, there is never a dull moment. Right? But the next bad bit is it costs. You need 4 batteries. If you're crazy like me and you have 3 bodies, then that's like 12 to 18 batteries, 6 for each. Because I can't, when you're in some of the places, you want to be fully fueled up for your camera, right? Which means the number of cards you have, the bags, the tripods, right? So it is pretty expensive. And then when you want to upgrade, trust me, Sahana, in 3-4 months, when you master your 1500D, you are going to be jumping to pick up the next one. Trust me, it's going to come. This 1500D in 3 or 4 months' time, once you've got great shots and you have the appreciation, you have your own confidence, you'll want to put that aside and say, you know what, I'll pick the 7D Mark III or the 5D Mark IV. Right? So now you're talking 2.5, 3 lakhs body. Then, what that's what happened to me. I got better than my 500D, I picked up the 7D Mark. You are better than your body and lens now, and you want a prime, because nothing beats a prime. Right? You want a prime lens. Your 500 f4 is about 6.5 lakhs. Right? I've got a friend, I introduced this guy to photography last year. He's already got 3 lenses and 2 bodies. Right? And he's still learning. Right? He picked up the 500 f4. I said, are you nuts? You're supposed to master. get better than your camera, then upgrade. He's saying, no, everyone is shooting. I want to shoot at 15 frames a second like you shoot in a thing. I said, boss, it is not frames per second. You have got to take that photograph. The camera is not doing anything. It's doing what it's telling you. It's your slave, right? So that's what it is. So this is the scary part. You will want to upgrade your gear. It will make you travel, all of that, right? So this is something you got to be, this is especially for guys like Vivek. He's picked a mirrorless. If, like Sana, your or my lens is about, or even the the Nikon 200, 500, about 70, 80,000 bucks. The mirrorless lenses cost 2 lakh upwards.
Is Vivek listening to us? I could not see his video.
Vivek, you there?
The mic is. I don't think so. Even the mic is muted.
Yeah, I'm here only. I'm just listening to you.
Okay.
This is especially for you because I can tell you with the lenses 3 of us have, Vivek, I'm sure we are pretty much okay because we will shoot well and get good images. Someone like you as a mirrorless, boss, your lens cost is going to go through the roof to the moon. It is expensive gear.
Exactly. I was looking for a lens, like you were telling me, that telephoto lens. Telephoto lens I was looking for, and it cost around some 89,000, I think. And I was like,
but if you want zoom factor like what the 3 of us have at 500 and 600 mm, you are talking upwards of like a lot of money.
Same.
Right? So remember this, as the photography, it's like Corona, literally. Right? There is no stopping it. You want more and more and more. The moment you see, suppose you're on a shoot with, Chandra or Sahana, and then she's on a 600 mm and saying, damn it, I want it, you will go and buy it. There is no stopping. I am telling you, I have 3 bodies, 1 point and shoot, 9 lenses, about 14, 15 batteries, 10, 12 cards, right? So when I travel, usually, men have that notion that, when women travel, they carry a lot. You got to be a photographer to know how much you carry. Photographers, the guys beat women in amount of baggage they can carry. When I'm traveling, I got 3 camera bags. I got a bag for shoes. I've got a bag for my warm clothes and my other clothes bag. So it is insane.
See, you people are professional photographers now.
No,
I just started and not
no, I am not professional. I am just for passion. No profession here. That's why I'm keeping quiet. Sticking to very few lenses.
All 3 of us love our hobby, and even I'm not a pro. I may shoot well, but I'm not a pro. But
actually, photography was not my hobby. Actually, I just started because of lockdown. My hobby is like you are driving now. You are driving. You love driving now. I am a rider. I am a bike rider. Basically, I have done all these 3 Leh, Ladakh, Sach Pass, Spiti Valley, and all those things. Whatever we can go by bikes, we have done it. So because of this lockdown, I started photography.
Oh, trust me, you don't know what you've got into. There is no stopping.
This is more costly than your bike rides, Vivek.
Absolutely. You'll end up selling your bike. You'll say, I want that lens. I don't care. I don't have a bike, but I want that, 600 mm lens because nothing beats it. When you get that lens, you want something more. So photographer reach as far as he can get. And if he's got the money and resources, they'll keep on spending. And cameras are getting like phones. They used to be every 2 years when a camera would get upgraded or a lens would come. No, every 2-3 months there's a new camera, this technology, that technology, going like mobile phones, right? So watch yourself. So typically, my experience, if your megapixel level is above 15 MB, 15 MB, that is good enough. That is good enough because the moment you take a great photograph, you can process it well. So this is something, Vivek, you watch out. Sana has just started, so I don't know. I'll talk to her 3-4 months from now to see, how she's progressing in terms of, she will automatically need a battery pack at some point because she's disappointed. She has to switch batteries. I'm telling you this, Sana, because my cameras have a battery pack. I can put in 2 batteries there. So which means 2 batteries gone, you need 2 spare. So you'll end up with 4 batteries. You're shooting with a SD card, right? Sana? Yeah. So when you go to the 7D, it is a CF card. The CF card is 4 grand one for a 32 GB, right? You will you don't have one. You will get 3-4 SD cards for that price. So CF cards are expensive. So it is like I advise people, don't buy a car you can buy a car you can maintain. Most important, right? So watch out as you upgrade the accessories. Your battery cost goes up. Your memory cards are expensive. You will need a bigger bag the moment you have a bigger lens and a body. Moment you have two bodies, because Anna, in 3-4 months, I won't be surprised if you tell me, I want to pick up a better camera because I've mastered this. Then suddenly you got two cameras. You need a bag that supports that. So all this, I'm just putting down everything that I've done, everything that I've experienced, everything that was a pain. That photography is an expensive hobby. It is not cheap. Right?
That's
so
why I'm just sticking to my D500, and the D500 actually purchased very recently. Purchases like my hubby always gift me. That's it. He'll ask me jewel or camera. I say camera. I'm not interested in jewels or anything else. I'm fine with camera. So yeah, I was shooting for a long time with D7200. Sorry, 7200.
No, it's a good camera. So
and then I switched over to D500, and I'm going to stop only with this at least for a year or so. I don't have any chance of switching over now.
No, you should stick to. So, I'm telling you, you will get to a point when, especially when you're shooting and you see my camera fire like a machine gun because it's doing 15 frames per second. How many frames does your 1500D do? Probably 3 to 4, not 3 point, about 4 frames per second or more maybe. So, my camera, if I shoot JPEGs, I will do 105 JPEGs in one shot before I get my finger off the shutter. That's 105 JPEGs in one go. So that's like a machine gun, right? So, you automatically want to get there. So my, advice and request to you is shoot well, and you'll be very happy with this camera because it is far better than what I had 10 years back with my 500D. So it's a damn good camera. Use it as long as you can. And when you reach that nirvana point saying, okay, I am ready for my next, research and then decide to buy it, get opinions. You get onto the photography forums on, be it on Facebook or whatever, ask those questions because technology is fast changing, right? A friend of mine did a blind buy. She went and she wanted a full frame. She picked up the 6D, right? But the 60 works with an SD card. The camera is far superior to the writing speed of the card. So the camera, if it's shooting fast, it is taking enormous time to write on the card. So I borrowed her camera because I wanted a full frame and I went to Sikkim 3 years back. I struggled. I never used it. I kept it and I picked up my 70 saying, you know what, I need a faster camera, right? So consider all of this. And if you come into association with some of the other photographers, right, get their opinion. Don't do a blind buy. That's my advice because we end up doing, when you want to upgrade, just be a little careful. That kind of brings me right to the end. If there's any questions, anything I can help with, more than happy.
I just want to say that I will try and. So carry on, Sana. I will speak later.
Yes, Anna, go on.
Okay, I just had one question. There's something called as exposure compensation. Oh no, I'm not getting the right
I
word.
didn't cover that. Sorry. Thanks. I knew I was missing something. Morning, I thought of it and I completely forgot. So exposure compensation, we will just go back to this screen, right? You're talking of this, no? The -3 to +3?
Yeah, yes. What is that exactly? And
so say you are shooting in AV mode. I'm just going to keep it simple. Camera is taken care of the shutter and that you've taken a picture, it is dark. Okay? You have to increase the exposure on the image. So you scroll right, you go towards the plus side. So what it does is, it reduces your shutter speed without changing the aperture and brightens your image because it's allowing more light to hit the sensor, right? Now, when you're at 0 and you're shooting in great conditions, right? Have you seen your photos get overexposed even though you're at you think you're at a good thing, right? Then you move left. What you're doing is you're controlling the exposure of the light hitting the sensor by reducing it. So when you're at 0 and your pictures are getting overexposed, go left, go minus, as in reduce the exposure. But say you're shooting a bird that's sitting on top of a tree, and when you're shooting the sky as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the camera is trying to expose for that entire sky area, which means it is exposing because the bird is small compared to the sky. It is getting confused. So then what happens? That's when you see silhouettes. Have you noticed you got silhouettes when you're shooting high branches?
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice that?
Yes.
Yeah. So that scenario, the moment it is gray skies, it is cloudy, and light is an option, an issue. Overexpose. Go on to the plus side. Take it to +1 or +2, and take that shot. Then what happens is that's when you get a white background. The background is burnt out. The complete background is burnt out. You want me to show you an example? I'll show you an example. 1 second. So I will just share. You'll have to tell me whether you can see my desktop. I'm just going to my pictures, and let me just pull up. Are you able to see my folders or anything?
No.
No. Okay, right.
Just a blank screen.
Okay. So I will share content, share folder. Are you able to see it now? Are you able to see it?
Mm-mm.
Any folder?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, see, I haven't posted this. I would love to post this image if it was a great image, but I haven't. Let me know if you can see this. Have you seen this? Can you see the image? Anna?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the Great Hornbill, right? I got this in Latpanchar, right? Cloudy skies. Look at the background. It is whitewashed, white, right? Even though the level of details are there, I haven't really posted it because I'm going to process it a little more and check whether I am happy with it. So this image is done, processed, kept. So because I'm shooting into the sky, it overexposed the sky. It's all gone white. Otherwise, normally what would have been a blue sky, because this is cloudy conditions. Okay. Remember this image. It is cloudy conditions, and I've got this photograph. I'm not too happy. I will show you another one of my rufous-bellied eagle. Look at this shot. It's a blue sky, right?
Yeah.
This bird was really high up, so I've cropped it a fair extent, but you can see the level of detail and all that. The eye is clear and everything. So these are the conditions when you're shooting up in the sky. You want to go to the plus side. You need more exposure. You want to shoot it like this. That's when you go plus. So when you need more light, when you're getting a silhouette, you need more light. That's when you go plus. If your image is getting blown up, there's too much of exposure on it, bring it down by going minus.
Okay.
Yeah, do a bit of experimental photography tomorrow at home. I'll show you another classic image. It is here. Trying to see. So this may be one. Okay, this may be an example. I haven't processed this image, so it will give you an idea. Look, because this is at Zulu. Okay, suddenly the bird is dark. You can't see anything clearly on it. You can't see the feather level. You want to zoom in as much. See, when you overexpose, right, in cloudy conditions, you lose details on the bird. See, look at that, and look at the noise.
Yeah.
Right. So this is something you've got to be really careful of. So just trying to think, what's another image, classic image of mine where I've shot to hill miners. Let me see, because the moment you see a white background, no, that means I have had to overexpose the image to get a good capture.
Scroll down a bit. Okay, back to that folder. After that red building, come down. I saw one with a semi-cloud and sky. Yes, this one. MIP one.
Bottom row, top row, this. Okay.
No, up, top row. The previous one. Up, above.
This?
MIP, yeah, that one.
Yeah, this is a classic image. Again, I haven't posted a mountain pigeon. Look at that. Look at the amount of noise. I've lost details because I overexposed. The camera wasn't, it was hunting, and it is saying I'll operate at, 1/3 of a second and all that, shutter speed. That is horrible. Even a tripod is going to, and I had leeches. On the ground. So I was more bothered about the leech not getting to my shoe and, making a mess out of me. So that's when, I just jumped onto a rock, but the ground was full of leeches. It was horrible, right? The moment I saw it, this is Latpanchar.
Oh, the leeches will be so the huge ones, right?
Yeah. Oh, they must have been like 10 lakh leeches on the ground. It was like a carpet. So I immediately jumped onto a rock, tripod on, Patak took the shot, jumped and ran. Because I know what leeches can do. It's happened to me once. So see, this is a short look. It's a beautiful shot. I don't have details. Look at the noise. Look at the noise, right? That's why this is not posted. This is a horribly noisy picture. I've taken it, processed it, not happy. Look at this. This one I did a fair amount of work. You've seen my rufous necked hornbill. Look at this. Otherwise nice image, washed out in the sky. This is a dream image to get. Bird in flight. All my friends were there. Eye is clear, but look, I can't see detail. It is noisy. Right. I need some pro to help me, do this. So I'm trying to find someone who can, because this is not my level of Photoshop I can deal with. So this is expertise.
Karthik, there is a Topaz denoise software. Try that.
Yeah, because right now I'm not using Topaz. This is a classic image I'll show you. I've shot it in bad conditions, very, very bad conditions. Anna, sorry, I'm taking a little time, but important. You know what I did here? It looks like a nice image, right?
You blurred the background, selected the front and blur the background?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Sana, this branch is there, right? There are 20 branches here. There is all kind of clutter on this image, right? So if I ever post it, I will say the background has been manipulated. I'm not going to just post it like that saying, oh my God, what a shot this guy's got. No, I did not shoot this. There were tons of branches behind it. I selected just one branch, layer 1. I selected the bird, layer 2. Then there was a layer 3. I went whitewashed it completely, so that is disappeared. I will show you original. I'll show you the original. I'll show you what I've done. This is a classic, I think. Oh, this is a classic image where I manipulated like hell, man. Absolutely. I'm trying to find. This is the. I can't see. Just when you want to find it, you will struggle. This is a clean shot, huh? Firetail sunbird. This is the background I got. I didn't have to do any manipulation.
Wow, that's lovely.
Clean shot.
Beautiful.
Eye level. The difference is I shot this at eye level. I didn't have to do anything. Before shooting into the sky, it would have ruined my image. This was at eye level. Clean shot. I didn't even touch the background. I framed it well and I said I want a blank background behind this shot. Then I went and manipulated one image. I'll show you that image. Where is it? the other folder.
Which bird is that?
That is a fire-tailed sunbird.
Oh, the one you manipulated.
That is long-tailed broadbill.
Okay.
So there is that one that I actually posted to it. This has to be here somewhere. Just as a reference I can show. So like even this, so it's something like this. I can't find that image, Sana, for your reference. Right, like this image, it had all that clutter, far worse than this. So I took the first branch, I took the bird, I knocked off everything behind it. There is something called Gaussian blur you can use. I just dragged it to one corner, clean, absolutely clean, and then I can play around. I want yellows, I want greens. You know, I'm trying to create an artistic effect, but you know, I can't draw. I'm a guy who can't draw a line. You give me a scale and a pencil, I can't draw a straight line. My artistic capabilities are that bad. They're pathetic. That's why I never participated in drawing competition. So trying to do something like that, I wouldn't. So I have to ask someone who's very good in Photoshop saying, boss, I want the perch, I want the bird, I don't want anything behind. I don't want any of that clutter behind. So that's what, you know, Photoshop can help do.
But one thing, are we happy if we do this, Karthik?
No. So I mention it. Like I think I posted a photograph the other day of something and I mentioned the background has been manipulated to make the bird stand out.
Yes, I heard. Yes, I recently read. I remember. It's yours, huh? Okay.
I do that. Now,
no, few things. What I felt is
this image. Look at this image. You will see. This is full shot. Okay. I went and did this because I wanted the bird to kind of stand out. I will post this also if I have not posted it, where I just manipulated. I think Sana, you've seen the full color image of this, where the bird is looking at you. So here is when I went with monochrome, played around with the background because I wanted it. I'm not happy with it. That's why I haven't posted it. I have to first be convinced saying, "Okay, I'll put this up." I wasn't. So it's actually a beautiful shot. Just look at that, you know, bird looking into you. Look at the feather detail, all of that. But not happy with the processing. Somewhere at the tail area, not convinced. There is this other photograph that this is what I posted. This is what I posted 2 days back. That's, you know, a little popular photo. If I look at the EXIF of this,
my favorite.
If I look at the exposure information on this photograph, it was testing. DPI. Look at this, 1/100th of a second. If I hadn't had my tripod and if I hadn't taken 50 shots of that bird in one go, I wouldn't have had a clean image. There are blurry ones. So this is why your tripod is very, very important, especially when you're shooting birds like this and all of that. It is very important. I can't show you that image where I've gone and made a complete manipulation of it. So anyway, long story short, Photoshop is your tool to use, better processing, and you'll be able to, you know, it's up to you. So, you know, I find it ethically incorrect if I've messed with my background, which is why I prefer calling it out and telling someone saying I have manipulated my background. Most often than not, I just take out noise. That's it. Little bits. I don't push it.
So I don't see anything bad if you are manipulating your photos or something. Whatever you want to do with your photos, you are free to do. But I think the thing must be presentable. But ये अपना नजरिया हो सकता है, अपना नजरिया हो सकता है. But I think if you are posting something on social media, it must be presentable.
Agreed. That I agree. But my thing is, if
उसमें ethics वाली कोई बात नहीं है. If you are manipulating, it's okay. ठीक है. It's all right.
No, but in my case, I call it out. To be honest, I will call it out, saying I have manipulated with the background. So even on Facebook, on some of the forums where I post,
then you are giving a disclaimer that you have manipulated.
No, but I
so what's wrong with that?
Especially if it is, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I prefer doing that. But what I don't prefer doing is, you know, just putting that shot and then everyone is saying, my God, this is a heavenly image. And somewhere, sense of guilt bites me saying, I didn't take this. I didn't do
Exactly,
this.
Karthik.
That bites me back. And, I'm a little unhappy when it, personally, somewhere I am not too convinced about, what I did. The simple thing, small thing, but really how I feel.
No,
So that's
it
it.
may gain
9:30.
likes, but we will not be happy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So especially when you post for competitions, right? They tell you, they give you boundaries in a professional competition saying only this percentage. You cannot take out branches. You cannot go and, push up the colors so much. They allow very little color correction, very little sharpening, and it has to be so many DPI. So you crop it only up to that much. So there is one such image of my Himalayan Monal. It got picked. So this is what I gave them. Very minimal cropping. They asked me only for 20% cropping. So this is the raw image. So this is slight cropping I did and gave. But what I posted on Twitter was this, where I cropped it last night.
Twitter is a like small screen where we see, even if it is the desktop or wherever, we need the subject to be more prominent.
No, that's what. So that's where I'll push it up a little bit, but not too much. So it's getting to 9:30. I'm sure you folks also have to have dinner, and I don't want to interrupt that. I hope it was helpful, Sahana, especially you and Vivek. Do let me know.
Yeah, it was a nice session, and it's already 9:30. You did not even come to know that. Thanks for the
Thanks.
session.
Anytime. But if you have any questions, list them out. And like anything, you can always give me a shout, give me a call. Most happy to talk you through it. I hope you're getting your lens back to Sigma to sort it out.
Yes, yes.
Get that done. Get that done, because otherwise it will make you feel very horrible, sitting with the gear there. Sort that out. So I hope it's a small problem. I just hope it's a very small problem. Yeah. Vivek, anything from you?
Yeah, I will try. I will actually, क्या है ना कि अब मैं experiments करूंगा. Till now I was unknown, है ना? Most of the things was new for me today, and I will experiment and will tell you definitely on WhatsApp, or I will call you whenever I feel.
Yeah. Just don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. Feel free to send me a message or give me a shout. More than happy to help.
And thanks to all, and thank you very much for having this video call and all those.
So next time I'm going to pick smaller topics. This was the initial, basically fundamentals, but I'll start picking smaller topics where it's just 20-30 minutes. We talk one thing and, nail it and get it out of the way. So Sahana and Vivek, if you have any, top 3 issues, pick them, share them with me. I'll come up with something and we'll just talk that 1 or 2 things. We won't go into too much detail. This was one session. I thought we'll touch the surface and cover everything. But we need to get into detail. We'll pick up a little more detail. I'll probably have 1 or 2 of my other friends who are shooting with other gears. More a Q&A session. So just keep questions, want answers, we'll give you the answers. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Chalo. Thanks, guys.
Nice session,
Thank you very much.
very nice. And I've got a lot of information from you. I'm going to try that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. I too going to try that. All those things. Because this is very new thing for me.
Thanks, Vivek.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Enjoy dinner. Take care. Good night. Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
कहाँ से बंद होता है यार ये? यार seriously, I'm struggling. बंद होगा भाई.